everyone, and welcome to another one of our live feeds. The reason for this live feed is in relation to a report, the Hyde report that has came out today, or has at least been reported on today, and its impact on those of us in the community who have kids and who are uncertain as to what the future may mean, given that they're now redefining neglect and how it stands in our community, and what, I guess, neglect looks like, and how the department over the years has ignored the, this is them, I think, saying this, not necessarily me, but how they have, the department has turned a blind eye, I guess, to issues around neglect. And as a result of particularly the death of two children here in South Australia, which was, as far as the department are concerned, was based on these children being neglected by their parents, that the report, another report, has been made into the Child Protection System, and the papers, the In Daily, the Advertiser and the ABC have all reported on this story today. So I thought what I'd do is have a chat to you about what this report means and my view on it and the neglect. Now, I do need to say I haven't actually read this report. I've only read the reportings on it, and when the report becomes fully available, we'll comment on it then. But at the moment, it's not fully available because there are some criminal cases before the courts, and they have redacted certain sections or chosen not to release some of it. But there are some interesting results as a result of this report. I just want to go through them with you so that we could assess them and work out whether or not these are going to impact you. My basic feeling is that, or my basic belief, I should say, is that this report is going to change the way the department may look at or view certain families because of what they determine to be neglect. Now, neglect, in my view, can sit under a whole host of umbrellas. It can be about failing to feed a child, therefore the child is failing to thrive, ignoring them in turn, or failing to send them to school appropriately, failing to send them to school with a lunch, failing to provide breakfast for them, having the children live in a house which is a mess. Now, I know from my own experiences as a social worker, I've been to many houses where I've been more than unhappy or disappointed, I guess, with the way the parents have maintained their home. I can remember going to a house some time back where the lounge room area was relatively tidy, but it was a bit unclean. But when we tried to enter into one of the rooms in that house, we couldn't even get through the door. There was so much crap and shit piled up against the door you couldn't even get through. Now, the department eventually, in that case, chose to remove the children, even though the mother herself, I thought, was a great mum. She did what she could to look after the kids, to have them educated, to take them to daycare. She did all that she could. But at the end of the day, she wasn't able to come to terms with some of the hoarding problems that she had. And as a result of that, I think the children were removed. Now, that bar at that time, a couple of years ago, was quite high. It's now being lowered. It's lowered to the point whereby, I guess, the first inclination that there's any degree of neglect, a child is likely to be removed. And we need to be mindful of this. Now, I'm not advocating that parents have poor conditions in which the kids live. I disagree with that entirely. But I think you can often work with a parent to talk to them about the implications of having a filthy household and how that impacts kids. So, but in this particular instance, I think I need to be really aware and warning you that if your place is in a mess and you've had some contact with the department, they are likely to come back and knock on your door. I suspect that they're going to start to look at cases that have not necessarily been a tier 1, but cases maybe that have been a tier 3, where they've come into your place, they've noticed it was a mess, but couldn't see any other primary issues that needed to be dealt with. The first thing they will do is that if your house is messy, they will assume that you have a mental health problem. And that will be another tick. So it'll be the neglectful stuff, it'll be mental health problem. And of course, if you have poor relationships, well, then that's another. And of course, they'll be looking further for other issues such as drug and alcohol use. So we need to be mindful that a person from the department coming into your house, noticing that that place is filthy, will then start to look for other things which may give greater justification, in fact, to removing a child. So be mindful of this. And I just want to go through what the report has to say. So this is in date. Now I want to do the one in the on the ABC. Now all of these reports basically say the same thing, so there's no sense in reading you each one of them. But South Australian Government says 500 children in high-risk settings after review of child protection. So what they've done here is that they have busily already identified. The report has found that there's hundreds of other kids. So this would be them reviewing previous information and where those children have remained within their families and saying, well, there's a whole bank of kids that we could find who perhaps were at risk because of this issue around neglect. The government says it has identified probably 500 children. Talked about that. The review, led by former Police Commissioner Mal Hyde, was prompted by the deaths of a 7-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl in a separate instance earlier this year. I reported on that. We've talked about that, and it's a very sad set of circumstances. The Premier said the principal reason for the reviews were to determine whether there were only children at risk, whether there are other children at risk, and to ameliorate that risk. Now, we need to be frank, the Premier has got no idea about child protection whatsoever. The jury's out on the current Child Protection Minister. I'm not going to make any assessments about her because I haven't met her, had discussions with her. But it is uncertain as to how the department will respond. However, the way they normally respond is by becoming extremely risk averse. So they'll be looking for ways by which they can mitigate against any further accusations made to them if children die and the department had known about them. Because what they will do will be find a way to have all of these parents, the X number of parents now with these 500 kids who have had involvement with the department, they will be reinvestigated. And if their houses are untidy, or if they're going to school without food, or whatever the case might be, there is a good chance that they will say, bugger that, I'm going to remove your kids because I'm not going to put those children at risk any further of dying. Even though we know that kids, a lot of kids, a lot of you people watching have probably grown up in pretty crappy households in terms of uncleanliness and whatever, and you've survived. And most kids will. It's unhealthy. It's not good for them. I certainly don't agree with it. But a lot of kids do survive. So the trauma of having a child removed from a place because of certain reasons of neglect is significant, because the damage done to that child is severe. Yet the department could choose, and often don't, and probably won't in this instance, to work with the family to get that house clean. In fact, it would cost them less to work with the family, have a house clean, even put in a cleaner on a weekly basis to tidy things up, would be cheaper than having a child removed and teaching parents how to maintain a house appropriately. That would be far cheaper. But no, they won't do that. They will take for them, the easiest response, which is them to act in ways which are going to be damaging to children and to their families, because that's the way they think. To carry on, Bernard said the principal reason for the review were to determine whether there were other children at risk and to mediate that, which I think I discussed. He said a coordinated response with SA Police and multiple government agencies was underway to check on the welfare, here we go, as I said, of the 500 children as quickly as possible. Mr. Hyde said the results came from analysing data based on 7 characteristics such as the number, type and frequency of notifications made to the Child Protection System and how many agencies were involved. So one has to wonder that... So how many notifications is enough notifications, right? So it'd be about the type of notification. So where there are those issues that I discussed, then the department would say that these kids were at risk. So the question now is how many of those 500 kids, or whatever those number of families were, how many of those children are likely to be removed within the next few weeks? Probably, I hasten to add, quite a few, because the department will be saying, well, they've had opportunities to work with other agencies, and clearly all of that has failed, and therefore we will do what we can to remove them, because at the end of the day, we are by far the better parent. So he goes on to say, government can be, I love this bit. So Malinowska says governments can't be loving, caring parents and guardians like parents and guardians themselves can be. Now, in my view, that is one of the most sensible statements ever made, because they can't. They can't. Like, they can't be as loving as caring as a biological parent would be, granted. But it doesn't mean they can't show characteristics that are loving and caring. So to wipe out completely the notion that a person who's working with a family can be loving and caring is bizarre. So in a sense, he's right. They can't be as loving and caring, but it doesn't mean they can't be loving and caring, because they should be. And that's what really makes a difference with a lot of families, is that sense of being nurtured by workers who really do care about them. But what we can do is expect that the responsibility and authority that is invested within government demands action and investment in any way and every way possible to protect children where we can. Now, these issues have been present for, well, you know, I don't know, 100 years. The effort to throw money at a problem in order to solve it has never proved to be valuable. And I've talked about this 1,000 times, and I'll go into this expert thing in a moment that they talk about, but we have said, and I have said, that it isn't about throwing the money. It's not about not having the money, and it's not about putting money into certain areas, particularly early intervention programs. That's important, and helping families. That's important. But it's also about having people working within the system who actually want to make a difference and have the power to do so. I think there are a lot of people within the department who want to make that difference, but don't have the power or authority to do so because they pass on that problem, that information, whatever, to other people who make the decisions that aren't necessarily the people working on the ground. So the government also accepted in principle 2 of the 3 recommendations made in another review led by child protection expert Kate Alexander. We don't know what that review says, Denny, and I have had a look, which assessed the status of all previous coronial and other recommendations related to child protection. The government said the recommendations to merge the department, so they've done this before. The Department of Human Services and DCP used to be the same place, and I think it was Weatherall who separated the two for reasons I don't understand. I think it was about education or something, but you know, we've been here before. We're doing it all again. It's a pain in the ass. Freaking stop it. So they represent a significant machinery of government change and will require further consideration. So he's not going to do it. Yeah, and don't. It's just an absolute waste of time and a waste of money. They'll change the name next, thinking that that's going to be the all-encompassing panacea, but it won't be. What is clear from both these reports is there is much work to do, but also acknowledge that there is good work also being done. Well, no one's going to dispute that. There are some good social workers amongst them. As a result of the 2 reviews, the government will establish a child protection expert group. Now, here's the point. Now, I would like to know what an expert group is. So are they saying that those people in the department, managers, supervisors and staff, that each division, that is each office, doesn't have a group of experts? So somehow they're going to have to find this expert group. And is this expert group going to come outside the department? Are they academics? Are they psychologists, social workers that sit outside the department? Or are they going to be just people within the department who tell them the same old shit and probably not tell them the truth anyway, even though I guess some of these reports try to do that, but they'll massage it in such a way that they won't make it the changes that are required, because they'll be fearful that some of them may even lose their jobs. And there's a bit about neglect. So neglect can be quite invisible, and in that respect, it doesn't necessarily have the same impact on those practitioners involved in child protection. You do not know, Malinowskis. You do not know. Where in the hell did you get that idea? So I think what he's saying there is that neglect is not invisible. I've walked into many houses and thought that this is inappropriate and it's neglectful because it's harmful for kids. I get all of that. I'm not an idiot. I've seen it. I remember going into one house years ago and I had to come home and had a shower. It was just so horrific with the insects and everything else that was racing around the place. I know what it's like. And I think practitioners are aware. Maybe the truth here is that some practitioners look for other alternatives to solve this problem, as opposed to always removing a child. And so by assuming that because you're involved in the child protection system, you tend to turn a blind eye, which I think is what he's trying to say, that's just wrong. And it's also hurtful to the workers that are doing the best job they can. He said that there had been 811 recommendations around child protection from independent reviews, royal commissions and coronial inquiries since 2016, and nothing has changed, buddy. 78% of those recommendations have been completed. Maybe the 22 that you're not doing are the important ones. Less than 1% of those 811 recommendations have the decision been made not to proceed with them. I'll take your word on that, but the reality is that you don't make decisions that are helpful, that are about working with families, that are about creating change. No system does. The child protection system is, I was going to swear then again, but it's Fruit Looped around the world. There is no one who gets it right. Some people get it more right than others, but no one gets it right. And the reason for that is that no one set of people can work consistently in the same way in order to bring about effective change. They can't, because a whole lot of people get frustrated, they get burnt out, they think they're doing the right thing, and a lot of them do, and they can't do it anymore because of the workload and all the external pressures that are placed upon them in order to do the best job they can. They don't have the resources, they don't have the money to, and they don't have the capability sometimes to be able to do it because they don't have the training. So there's lots of reasons why this doesn't work. And when they're talking about this expert group, they should invite us along. I do this thing, in case you haven't noticed, where I sit here on Facebook and YouTube and we talk about this stuff, but at the end of the day, they don't get it. They don't get it. And just to help them, that didn't work. Did that one work? So anyway, at the end of the day, what is it they're going to do? Bugger all. Now, I'll have a look at, there are some responses. This is exciting. Some kind of system programs with, so this is Jojo White. Some kind of system programs with pro-family values need to be put in place to protect families and children from child protection system that causes long-term trauma to the whole of humanity by ripping entire families apart. Their way is not God's way and goes against humanity. Well, fair enough. If you want to make a comment below, please do so. I did have but I can't find it now. Bugger. I did have an email address in here somewhere that I thought we might be able to use if I can just find it. Don't know whether that's the one. I had. Okay, so I had this one. Bear with, and I don't think I can find it right now. No, I haven't got it. There you go. I thought I was organised, and I wasn't. So we'd like to know your comments. Please put them down below, and we'd also like to know that if you're watching this on YouTube, could you please subscribe and ring the bell if you want some further notifications. If you have any other ideas about things that we could do to advocate for you, to talk about your cases and what's happening for you, please let me know. The email address is admin@childprotection.party. Easy to remember. Send us an email. Let us know ideas that you have about how we can advocate to improve the child protection system. Would be fabulous. So let us know what you think. All right, Jody talking about forgotten Australians. They are a necessary evil. Yep, they are. Yeah, it's like saying let's do away with the police. Well, we can't do that. Some police are good, some police are bad. That's just the way it goes. They're necessary evil, but get it so wrong. I'm a forgotten Australian and would love to see a royal commission. Look, Jody, royal commissions produce... I don't know what you want from a royal commission. If you want something like institutionalised abuse, sexual abuse of kids, then yeah, fine. That did a great deal of good because it provided some sort of remuneration to those that have been abused while in residential and other care. So, but what can we expect from child protection system given the number of reviews that they've had? They're continuing. Nothing changes, absolutely nothing. What we at CPP want, I want to change the system too. We've been trying to do that for 10 years. But we need people to tell us, some of my ideas I think are extremely reasonable and they're not over the top, but we certainly need people to stand up and advocate. And the way that a lot of you could do that is to join us at Child Protection Party. One of the primary issues that we have here is that we have lots of people who get enthusiastic about what it is that we're doing. They come and then they stay for a short period of time, they go. We want people that are committed to changing this system. And Jody, if you want to change this system and you're not a member of CPP, I suggest you become a member. It's $12 a year. That's it. $1 a month. That's all we're asking. But people say, well, why aren't we changing? Well, we are. We're doing the best that we can. But we're not as effective. How do you join? You go to, I'll punch it in. I should have put this up there. So it's Child Pro. I can't type. I think it's just that. You go to our webpage anyway, because once you come up with our webpage, you'll see that there's a join there. So join us. It's a bit of a rant now, but if I get really upset when people ask us, well, what are you doing? Well, we're doing the best that we can with a handful of people. We would do better if we had 200 or 1,000 people working with us at any given time. We would do much better. So if you want to complain about things not changing and you're doing nothing, don't bloody blame us, because it really gets me upset. Do not blame us if you're doing nothing. If you're just complaining about the system that's Fruit Looped, then join us. That is how we will make a difference. We are tired of people. Now I'm going to this other round. We're tired of people making complaints to us, which they're entitled to do, And we do a lot of advocacy free of charge for people. Send off emails, have long conversations with them on the phone. I would have 5 or 6 of those conversations a week. Easy. People have my number. They can give me a call. They give Avery a call. Right? But basically, and there's a few other people in the party in other states as well. But basically, we'll give the advice that we can. I had a guy who went off at me the other day because I told him that what he was planning to do was inappropriate and unhelpful and it wasn't going to work. And he went right off at me because he said I put him down. I didn't. I was just telling you, after a decade of this work, I know what works for people who've got these issues. So have a conversation with us, by all means. But don't have a go at me because I'm not giving you the information that you think you want. But if we had more of you helping us out, fine. You know, there's an election in Victoria on the 26th of this month. We have a candidate standing in one of the seats, in the Child Protection Minister's seats. You know, he cannot get enough volunteers. He just can't, because people are not interested. I don't know why people aren't interested in the well-being of kids. It is beyond me. You know, and I know I have a lot of activities. I do a lot of stuff around working with these families because that's my job. I get that. And there are a lot of people out there who have those issues. I know that as well. So join us. Make an effort. You know, we do every day of every week. You should do the same. I shouldn't say should. We'd like you to do the same. We'd like you to help us, to help yourself, to help others that need our help. Child Protection Party is the only political party that's involved in working with kids and families. The only one. There ain't no other. So help us. Get involved. Make a difference. And finally, if your house is a mess, clean it up. Because in South Australia, if you've had involvement with the child protection system before, you're likely to have involvement with the child protection system again, given that they're after you. Thanks, everybody. I apologise for that rant, but it was an opportunity to say what I needed to say. If you've got any ideas in terms of what you'd like us to do to help you, in terms of talking about some of this stuff, we've put out a whole series of videos that I've done in relation to how to deal with the Child Protection Department when they knock on your door. Right? No need to talk about the time and effort put into doing all of that, but we do it because we want you to be better informed about what will happen when they do knock on your door, if they do. And there's a 25% chance they might. So, contact us. Get involved. We'd love to work with you. You can come along to our meetings. We Zoom meet, or we MST meet actually, but come along to our meetings, talk to us, and get involved. Okay, everybody, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, keep yourself and everybody around you safe.